All right, I'm John Biggs, TechCrunch, Gizmodo, all sorts of things, CoinDesk. I'm going to be the cynical, naive person in this conversation. Can we start the clock, please? But I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves, and then we're going to just get right into it. It's going to be mostly questions from the audience, so why don't you go first?
Hi, my name is Demetrios Skalkotos. I'm Global Head of Sales for Blockdaemon. We're a node infrastructure and staking infrastructure company.
I'm Halsey Huth, Head of Growth and Partnerships for MoonPay. So we power all the on-ramps for a lot of the Avalanche companies, and here to talk about helping them build.
I'm Alex Heuer, Director of Partnerships with Wire, crypto infrastructure provider supplying fiat on-ramps to the Avalanche blockchain and various other ecosystems.
I'm Nikhil Chari. I lead BD at Circle, which is the company behind USDC.
All right, so the interesting thing about this panel is you guys aren't specifically technical on the technical side, right? We're pretty much talking to sales folks. So you're basically selling this stuff to a world that presumably wants it, right? And I guess we could start from you. I guess the first question is, how do you sell this? We're talking, we have Web 2, whatever we want to call it, the standard web. What you guys are talking about is a form of technology that can presumably route around damage. It can presumably route around censorship. It also presumably demonetizes personal information. Those are all the benefits. But how do you sell that to, I don't know, how do you sell that to Netflix? How do you sell that to Foursquare that is used to holding reams and reams of data or holding reams of compute in their own servers? How would you sell that to an average person who knows nothing about this?
So when you say sell this, what do you mean?
You guys have to go out and you have to sell this to a bank. You have to sell this to a .com, and literally a .com that started in 2000 as opposed to a .com that started in 2019, right?
So I'd say Circle's probably in a different position than the other companies here because we're the principal operator of USDC. And so our role is really, we're the gateway for a lot of these companies that want to step into crypto, that want to take their first steps in crypto, because USDC is just a dollar on a blockchain. And so the fundamental thing that we do with the Circle account is we allow companies to connect their own traditional bank account and convert one-to-one between dollars in their bank account and USDC, and that's their gateway into this world. And then we have other products on top of that we sell.
Okay, so I'm old man Grumpus over at the bank, and you come to me and you say, hey, we can give you a USDC account. What are you going to tell me that I need it for? And why would I, as old man Grumpus at, I don't know, some bank in Kansas, why do I care?
So old man Grumpus probably doesn't have any idea what they want to do in crypto, but they've heard about crypto and they want to do something. So honestly, like the pilots that we would do with them are very lightweight. It's just convert dollars into USDC, maybe do one transaction and see how cheap and fast it is. Because like right now, if you use a fintech app, it appears as though money moves instantaneously, but that's not actually what happens. On a blockchain, money settles in seconds for very low fees. And so them being able to see that verified on a ledger, like an Avalanche ledger, if they're sending USDC on Avalanche, is the first step that opens their eyes into what this technology really is, which is putting money on the public internet in a real way.
To answer your question, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing today is just learning about how to utilize this technology. Halsey and I are probably having conversations with some of the largest brands in the world, centralized banks, and the biggest thing that they are asking is, how do I do this? So we're seeing a ton of interest, especially over the last year, from a lot of players that no one would expect to enter this space. So I guess the answer to your question is education. My team simply educates various partners, Wire's API infrastructure, to build on top of a Wire, to custody assets, fiat on-ramp into crypto, Avalanche. And today we actually just released USDC on Avalanche fiat on-ramps. So pretty excited about that.
So I think it comes down to like what they want. So most of the time we're speaking to not the big brands, it's usually the wallet providers, the different NFT marketplaces. But when you're speaking with the large brand, they get very excited and they're like, great, 2022 is our year of NFTs. We got a whole team, we've got a squad, we've got a budget. How do we get started? And it comes back to the education part. They usually have an idea of what they want to do, but really don't know how they're going to actually put that out into production. And then where a lot of us on the panel come in is once they've actually gotten through that ideation stage, they have something out in production, they need to have a way that it actually works for the end users. So when you take a Netflix, for example, if they start looking into NFTs, they want people to get access to those NFTs in the same way that people are signing up for the regular Netflix subscriptions. So having solutions that actually let people go and access these NFTs directly with their debit cards and credit cards, that's one of the main parts that they need inside of that stack. But it's definitely been a interesting run over the past 9 months or so speaking with these large brands, and all of it very much comes down to education and helping them get it out the door.
To your bank analogy within Kansas, right? For us, we assist all of these players here in providing infrastructure. We turn the bank in Kansas into a blockchain company if they so desire to. So we provide that baseline infrastructure layer that allows them to connect to a Bitcoin, the ecosystem, or the Ethereum ecosystem, or whatever ecosystem they want to participate into. They provide interest in turning their US dollars into digital dollars so they can use them and possibly earn a yield on those dollars, because we're not earning much in our US bank accounts today. So it's really turning these companies in that have an interest into the digital world into providing them the access points to become a blockchain company.
What's the ultimate goal? And you can start. What's the ultimate goal here? Is the ultimate goal to replace the original piping with blockchain-based piping? Can they run concurrently? In 20 years, is it all blockchain all the way down?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a slow transformation, even though we all feel like it's going to be massively fast. I think you're going to look at the traditional ecosystem, whether it's a payment processing, lending processing, and how do we convert each particular step into a blockchain function, and where does each one of us kind of fit into that function? But the whole Web3 thing is try to eliminate, it's more of a P2P network and eliminate the middleman in some aspect, and having all of us own our piece of what we want into this digital world.
Yeah, hear a lot like NFTs are eating the world. There's definitely a side of this where regular payments and e-commerce are working very well, but when people start to go down this new path of gated access to content or membership, and it's all sitting on NFTs, you need different rails that actually work in the same way that people are accustomed when they're used to old e-commerce payment rails. And there's a lot of hand-holding that needs to kind of go into helping those companies kind of transition from, call it Web 2 and e-commerce, into what their kind of future version with NFTs look like. But you need to think of the end user, because even if you have the company that has a fantastic idea, it still needs to work for that end user. And a lot of the time we're talking about people that they may not have ever downloaded or used a crypto wallet before. And so that user experience needs to be very important, and it kind of sits at the crux of a lot of these projects, especially for major Web 2 companies coming into crypto for the first time.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off that too, I think it varies by business type. Some of the large traditional finance players that we're speaking with, they're getting heat from their users to access crypto liquidity, most because of the price appreciation in the space. But they also don't want to custody funds. They don't really want to support crypto rails because it kind of counteracts their business model in general. So the biggest thing that we're trying to supply and educate them is that infrastructure where they can do it compliantly, safely, insured, and that's what we're really looking to provide at Wire.
I'd say it should happen sooner than 20 years. The whole point here is that you have a way to settle funds in seconds. So the thing that was missing is you needed third generation blockchains like Avalanche, where you could send money very cheap and very fast. And the money can settle near instantly, and it's a bearer instrument. So the person who has it on the other end, if they have the private key, they own that money. It's like cash. That system is way better than the system that we have today. So from a technological perspective, it's a step function improvement. It's just regulation is probably the biggest thing holding it back. And if we have regulators say that digital assets like USDC are the same as the dollar, just on a new payment rail, I think it's basically game over. Like, the system right now of us all holding plastic cards and merchants having a thing that can read a plastic card, like, sending money through digital wallets is just way better than that.
What do we say to people, or what do you say to folks who say, okay, either I don't want to host my own, basically what we're talking about is basically controlling our own data, controlling our own compute, to a degree. The idea that instead of running my own server, I'm going to IPFS this thing out to a number of servers that are basically holding my data. What do you say to that person who basically says, I want to hold on to this thing, or I don't even want to host this, it doesn't matter to me where this is held, and it's immaterial to me where this stuff ends up. Does that make any sense? There are two camps, right? So there's the guy who always wants to have his own DigitalOcean instance, and the other guy who's like, I don't care. It could be a Dropbox, it could be anywhere. All I care about is just getting that information. Why would I use that instead of, how do you argue that point with that person?
I think this might be you start.
For this, I mean, that's why we run, hosted nodes for companies. We help these companies scale, and it's really we're providing that bank or that exchange or that lending process to provide that node access point, that lending service that they can offer to their retail customers. And then it rolls into the front end of making it easy. I can click the button, I can stake my assets, I can earn a yield, and if they want to pull it, if they want to own it, there's the capability for them to do those. So I think that functionality is coming, and in this instance it's already there. It can be a lot easier and a lot more smoother than it is today, but I think we provide both of those capabilities. But for us, we help companies scale. That's what we do. We're helping them enhance their engineering and DevOps engineering organizations to really provide that function to the end user.
I think again, it comes down to like what that company wants to do. It may not be that Netflix wants their like entire catalog of content to be held on different like IPFS nodes. It's more, what are the experiences that we can now offer? What was like an existing user base? Can we do something special by knowing in a kind of trustless way who these people are, what fans are kind of what content do they want to engage in? So just quick example, if you're a subscriber of Netflix, but now you own the NFT that is kind of like the membership version of that. Now you can get access to some special gated content that not everyone else had access to. And so there's a lot of different like experiences that we're starting to see that weren't really possible before, and just like doing that in a less kind of gated fashion.
And I also think that it depends on the jurisdiction that the company lives in. So the United States has a lot stricter regulations around data security than, say, the EU or South America. So it's something to think about, when you guys are building out different projects, where are you going to incorporate? Because that's really important when it comes to compliance and regulation and building a compliant product that can scale. So really by jurisdiction.
I think most companies are not going to want to run their own nodes. They don't have the expertise to do it. That's why Blockdaemon and other companies exist. Maybe in the future, large companies are going to build out their Web3 teams and build out Web3 engineers and do it in-house, or they're going to buy a bunch of companies. But for the time being, most companies need a service provider to just abstract away a lot of the complexity.
You just can't scale. You don't know what protocol is going to win out. Right now, it's not just a Bitcoin and Ethereum world anymore, as we know, right? There's 50 plus protocols that have a lot of funding behind them, a lot of interest behind them, a lot of massive capabilities, Avalanche being one of the main ones. And in order to figure out which one's going to win or which one best fits your business model, you're going to have to work with partners to do that.
Okay, so presumably this room is full of people who are building stuff or trying to build stuff. What should they be building right now? What is the market asking for that you guys are able to sell, that you guys are able to push into clients' hands? What's a hole that needs to be filled by a programmer who's sitting here?
I think from the ecosystem is, one, you provide access, but two, you have to provide security of where those assets reside, right? So managing your keys and custodying of digital assets is always going to be a key component of a security aspect. So where are my digital assets? How are they being secured? Can I put them all in one custodian? And right now, the custodial landscape is very fragmented. They support a few things, some support a few other things, and it makes life miserable for a lot of the folks that are holding their digital assets, because they have to work with multiple regulated custodians, and in some instances, the protocol is not supported at all, and they have to hold it themselves on a digital wallet or some software wallet. So I think that component, along with everything else that we're building on top of those layers, are going to be key. But you want to make sure that the baseline layer of a ubiquitous custodian for multiple assets is going to be key, so people have security.
How do you ensure? Hold on, wait just 1 second. How do you ensure? So what you're talking about is a custodian that's regulated in multiple places, right? So we're talking about and nobody wants to take custody. The idea is the goal would not to be take custody, because that's exactly what fintechs are. They're financial technologies that their damnedest not to take custody, so they don't go to federal prison. So how do you create a system that would essentially outsource that fact?
Well, I mean, most of the institutions that we're dealing with are required to use a licensed custodian, right? Whether they're domiciled in the Americas or Europe or in Asia, they all have to meet their regulatory digital asset security measures, whether it's NYDFS or Wyoming or South Dakota or Nevada Trust, or it's the FSA in the UK and the Canadian regulators. So you're seeing a lot of these custodians that I think will be massively consolidated over time, because the traditional ones are all thinking about, hey, my customers are knocking at the door, they're asking me to supply these services, they have the balance sheet to support this new asset class, and they will all move into custodying some aspects of digital assets. The thing is the depth and the breadth of those assets that are being covered, because some do a few and not one does all.
So on the kind of request for product side, I think consumer products in crypto is still very much getting there. You have a lot of amazing tech that's being built out right now. A lot of people in this room are helping move that forward. But at the end of the day, we remember that we're building this for my twin sister who works at JP Morgan and literally knows nothing about cryptocurrency right now, but she very much would like to go engage with her favorite kind of musician or artist and support them. And so when you are a company building a project in Avalanche, there is kind of this little checklist of different things that you need to have access to in order to actually go launch your product. And a lot of that ends up around the infrastructure side, the decision to have either a custodial or non-custodial wallet, payments, on-ramps, and then NFT minting infrastructure. A lot of this has kind of been pick and choose the different parts that you want to use. So people that can actually kind of streamline that process, help people go launch their product. So very interested in people building out gaming infrastructure. But right now there is a little bit of choice depending on kind of how large the blockchain is. But it's usually not a ton of choice. But it's great now that groups like Avalanche have their own kind of non-custodial wallet offering that already comes in baked in with MoonPay payments. And so now it's kind of one piece that they don't need to worry about and can actually go focus on building out that consumer experience.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to custody, well, first of all, we actually want to custody assets. We are a licensed custodian, so a lot of different protocols, and I'm sure a lot of you in the audience building out NFT marketplaces, that's probably kind of the hot ticket in the crypto space. So how do you do that compliantly? Everything from music to luxury goods to art. There's a lot that can go into that, and so especially when it comes down to compliance, custody, to your point, minting, you've got a few different solutions, right? And I think the future really looks interoperable. So be able to use a certain infrastructure for your on-ramp, custody, off-ramp, and even through various chains as well.
Yeah, I'd say either build something that's deep in crypto, it's a dApp, you're doing everything on chain, or build a consumer app that abstracts away anything to do with crypto. Those are the two areas that I would focus on.
So the abstraction, the idea of complete abstraction is interesting, and we can maybe close on that. Is the ultimate goal for all of us who are interested in crypto, who might be building in crypto, to make it as seamless, and I think you've already achieved this, right? Circle to a degree has already achieved this, to make it as invisible to us as, I don't know, the Linux machine on my iPhone right now.
Yeah, like nobody talks about SMTP when they talk about email. It just works. We're still talking about protocols because that's the stage we're in right now. We'll get to a point where we don't need to explain the technology and it just works.
Yeah, and I think, you know, circling with Circle and MoonPay and Block Daemon up here, a lot of the businesses and the users that we support, their users don't even know that they're using Wire or MoonPay or Circle. They're powering the backend, and I think that that's important because, I mean, I hate to say it, but like my dad isn't going to go and buy an NFT and build a Web3 and get a Web3 wallet and custody that NFT. He wants that NFT without knowing what's on the back end, and I think within the last 6 months that's now possible through advances that the gentlemen on this stage and our companies have done.
Yeah, that's definitely an important one. Now that we have a lot of these entertainment, media, and gaming brands, their user bases, you know, you've got a little Venn diagram of people that have waded into crypto, but you know they spend the majority of their time not focused on crypto. And so when they want to go like engage in these experiences, you know, that whole user experience needs to feel, you know, very close to when they were, you know, buying digital skins in Fortnite. And if you don't have the ability to go and like offer that solution on your own, you have to partner with one of the groups on this panel to actually go and deliver that user experience. So building for that consumer who knows nothing about crypto is definitely the end game here.
Getting away from the anxiety of CLI command line interfaces versus a nice UI UX kind of button for someone to use is all what we're striving for, right? So that's why how Block Daemon got started. Our founder was trying to connect to an Ethereum node and God, this is awful with all the dev tools that were out there, and our job is to really make it ubiquitous so it can be for the masses, and that's really what we're striving to do. We're in that, you know, early stages of evolving, and it's going to continue to become easier and easier for the masses to use what we're all building here.
Okay, I wanted to leave time for questions, but I think we have time for one question only, or else we let these guys go have some patatas bravas. Anybody? All right, folks, thank you for joining me. This has been enlightening, and hopefully Old Man Grumpus gets his node at some point. So, thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you.